Welcome to #Analytics, a conversation between two individuals, one that's super passionate and one that's super opinionated, both around the topic of analytics. As usual, I'm Ann Jackson, and Luke Stanky is my co-host. Luke, who do we have with us today?
Today we've got the Flerlage twins, Ken and Kevin. Ken, how you doing today?
Good. How you doing, Luke?
And pretty good. Kev, yourself?
Excellent. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, this is going to be an amazing podcast. One is a Zen master, and the other is someone who I took down in a competition.
I did not know we were going to go that route. You saved that little nugget. Yeah.
Saving those notes the entire time.
Well, thanks you guys for being here today. You know, we're nearing the end of the year, and I thought kind of a great way for us to kick off this casual conversation is just to talk about 2018, the year in the Tableau community, stuff that you've done, stuff that you've seen, and take it from there.
Go for it. Yeah, I mean, the cool thing about 2018 for me is it's all I know as far as the Tableau community. So started using Tableau in February of this year. So pretty exciting to get really tied into the community and experience what this guy has been talking about for a year and a half, and that I really didn't get. So I know we probably all have, maybe not you, Ann, but we all have husbands and wives that may not quite get it. My wife is one of them that doesn't get it. So, and when Ken started using Tableau and started talking about Tableau and going to the conference in Vegas, I didn't get it. I was one of those people that didn't get it. So now I totally get it. So the community is awesome. The conference is one of the greatest experiences I've ever had. Losing to Luke in the Tableau tip battle was not that fantastic, but yeah. So really great to really just get involved and really learn what this is all about. It's really the most exciting piece of software I've ever touched. So, anyway.
So I want to drill into that further. So Ken, you know, you've talked about Tableau, you've been in the Tableau community, you talked to Kevin about it. What does that look like? And Kevin, what really won you over to be like, all right, I need to take this seriously, or this is not just my brother being weird?
Well, I mean, so I've been using Tableau for, I guess, 2.5 years or something like that. And I mean, I just was immediately hooked on it. And so I was like sharing things on Facebook, which is the worst place to share any of this stuff. I mean, it goes nowhere for whatever reason. But him and his buddy would just immediately like pile on and just make fun of me for how just nerdy I was. And then I stopped posting things on Facebook, so it was kind of useless. But that, you know, but as he said, eventually he, you know, sort of I'll let you talk about what got you interested in actually learning it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, so I've been in analytics for a long time. It's been kind of that grind it out in Excel mentality. And I started to hear at work about Tableau. People started to be talking about it a little bit, not a lot. And I kind of got tied in with one of the analytics managers. And I just mentioned to him casually, you know, hey, you know, are you guys using Tableau for anything? And he said, oh, he got really excited and, you know, said, I'm just really learning. And I said, well, you know, I got a Tableau Zen master as a brother, and he lost his mind. I mean, literally, the guy started freaking out, and he didn't even know the guy. He offered him a job on the spot. Said, "Hey, if he wants a job, I'll hire him right now." So it was really cool. I went, "Oh wow, this is actually something, right?" So him and I continue to communicate, and they brought Ken in they wanted to use Ken as the keynote for their Tableau day, and it really just kind of blew up from there. That I realized, hey, this is actually something big. So I talked to Ken. I said, all right. I relented and said, hey, it's time. You know, why don't you tell me what this is all about? And Ken sent me a video of Matt Francis to learn off of. And I'm like, Ken, you're a stinking Zen master. Can't you teach me? So he said, yeah, I guess I could do that. So we spent 3 hours one evening working through Tableau, and I was immediately addicted. I think I created 4 visualizations in like the first 2 weeks. It was just, and my wife finally said, "Hey, that's kind of enough. you gotta back off the gas pedal a little bit with that." But and side note, I did go back and watch Matt Francis' video about 6 months in. It's excellent, fills a lot of the gaps, but I didn't really see the purpose early on to watching some other Zen master or former Zen master teach me when I had a twin brother to do it. But yeah, it's incredibly addicting. You know, just the analytics piece, but also the design, the storytelling. It's really an addicting thing.
And the community is so key to that
Yeah.
as well, right? I mean, you know, if you were just, I mean, for the first few months that I was messing around with Tableau, I didn't know that this community even exists. So I had a Twitter account. I was sharing things on Twitter and LinkedIn, but I still had no knowledge of that broader community. So I was just kind of doing it on my own. I still loved it and still kind of hooked on it even without the larger community, but knowing that that's out there and, you know, all these resources for learning from people and, you know, go download someone's workbook and take it apart, or just being inspired by what people were creating, you know, that I think just deepens the addiction to the, you know, to it.
Ken, and I just think I remember when you kind of started accelerating your focus on Twitter and on Tableau Public, you really went all in on that process for sure.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, and part of it was being noticed. You know, I mean, I had been playing around with Tableau. I mean, I started learning it because I knew I was gonna have to use it at work. But then I ended up working on just like a data warehousing architecture project and didn't actually touch it at work. But I just sort of thought, hey, this is kind of cool, and started playing with it and writing blogs and creating visuals for those blogs. And but it wasn't, I think, until people started to notice the things that I was doing, you know. And well, it was a couple things. I mean, one was, I mean, I talked about this in our presentation at TC. I was going down the path of learning D3 because I thought Tableau was great for bar charts and line charts and, you know, those things that were available and show me. And it wasn't until I kind of had this aha moment and realized you could plot things on a, you know, with X and Y coordinates, that it opened up this whole new world of things I could do. And then once I started exploring those, then people took notice. You know, I remember doing this thing I called a snowflake chart, which was a hierarchical chart. It was my first attempt at building something that I hadn't seen anyone build before. And I remember Josh Tapley noticing it right away and saying, hey, that's cool, I want to try that. You know, and then a month later, you know, Ben Jones noticed something that I did. And, you know, those were the kinds of things that really got me, you know, to see other people being excited about something I was creating just made me more excited and made me want to do more of it, you know, just continuing to create. And it was just kind of cool. But I also then started seeing, you know, all these other people, you know, Adam Crane and Pooja and all these people doing really, really neat and interesting things. And just, so, yeah, I think at that point, Luke, I really sort of escalated my learning, you know, by, you know, getting the inspiration, seeing what people were doing. You know, I saw Roddy do this thing that I looked at it and I said, man, that's trigonometry. I've used trigonometry in 25 years, but I know exactly what that is. Went and kind of recreated it. So that kind of just cyclical process of learning from other people and being inspired and, you know, yeah, anyway.
Yeah, it's fun to do, but when people start, you know, complimenting you for the work that you've done, or start using some technique that you had no idea was going to be a big deal, then it's, you know, it pulls you in. It's addicting. Well, I wasn't. Your Curry timeline. No polygons has been a little bit hot lately, so yeah, it's pretty exciting to see things that you put together that maybe somebody hasn't written about before, or never done before, and people start using that and creating their own visualizations using that technique. It's incredibly addicting.
Or a case like that where it is something that people have done before, or you've seen that type of visual before, but it wasn't accessible to a large group of people because it required polygons and some complex math to draw certain curves and that kind of thing. So you were able to create something that opened it up to a much broader audience of people, you know, and allow for all these different kinds of shapes that it would be really difficult to do without it. So yeah, it's cool when you hit on something like that gets people excited and you start seeing them using those techniques.
And I would say both of you have sort of always had the pulse of the community on what cool shortcut you can come up with to make your lives way easier, rather than, say, doing things the hard way.
And it's interesting you say that, Luke, because we talk a lot now, but there are lots of situations where I'm doing something. I just wrote a blog post about using 2018.3 the transparent sheets to do like color theming, to where you could go from black to white, you know, just like on your app on your phone, turn on dark mode. But I sent it to Kevin and he said, yeah, that's pretty cool. But what about doing this? And he gave me this really like simple idea of how to do it. And I'm like, damn, you know, that's way easier, way more straightforward. So it's kind of interesting. I think maybe I tend to think things, I tend to do what you do maybe, Luke, and I'm doing things a little bit harder. And he's got these, like, because he's still relatively new, he's got these ideas of how to make those difficult things even much more simple. So it's kind of cool to kind of, you know, I've been able to learn from him in that way as well.
Yeah, when you haven't been around that long, you just try and you almost feel like you're taking shortcuts, trying to do these cool things that everybody else is doing, but I don't really know how to do it. Like, I don't know how to build. I mean, I get conceptually how to build a polygon. I understand the idea behind it, but I've never done it. So just drawing a shape in PowerPoint and, you know, structuring it in a certain way is a lot easier for me. And then the same thing with him. You know, that blog post, you know, it was a two-step process to do what he was doing. And maybe it's not as flexible, and you can read about it later. That's a little teaser, but it's not as flexible, but it's sure it's really easy. So yeah, not being involved in community, I always find ways to make things simpler for myself, and then find out, well, it really works out pretty well for other people. So, yeah.
So do you guys think, so now, Kevin, that you're all in on the community, I mean, you guys were talking about how you collaborate with each other. Are you each other's main collaborators, or do you still have other people that you solicit feedback from? What does that look like?
No question, I collaborate with him more. I don't know if he does with me, but no question that I collaborate with him. I mean, I bounce a lot, and we've been doing this since day one, really, is just bouncing ideas off each other. It just makes sense. And I often have him, you know, I've just started a blog, a month and a half ago, and I often have him read those blog posts just to say, am I saying anything stupid here? Or, you know, I always want to attribute somebody who did the work before me as well. So who am I missing? And, you know, Luke, you know, I just did the hex map thing. There's no original content in there whatsoever. It's just a compilation of everybody else's work. But I made it clear to talk to every single person, and including Luke, to make sure that, you know, he was okay with it. And you know, so yeah.
I definitely have non-standard ways of sharing content, and not necessarily in blog posts. So it's like, oh, let's go find this old, not even actual tweet. It's just like comment.
Everybody had a link to a blog post except for you. I had a link to a tweet, yes. But yeah, so I bounced everything, probably bugged the crap out of him, but I bounced everything off of him. Visualizations, blog posts, ideas, just it's constant. And I'm going to go off the rails here for just a moment. And for those who don't know, I live in northern Kentucky, just a few minutes south of Cincinnati. Ken lives in Pennsylvania. He moved up here for a girl 20 years ago. She's the wife, yeah. And we're in Pennsylvania right now. But for, you know, the first few years he lived up here, we talked a lot. And we were best friends as kids. But over that time, you know, life kind of catches up with you, and we stopped talking a lot. We would text each other every once in a while, talk on the phone every once in a while. But Tableau was brought us back together, and this is going to sound mushy, and, you know, he might start hugging me here in a second, but I mean, now we talk every single day, multiple times a day on the phone, via text, over email. It's constant. So it's really cool because not only is, you know, my career, I mean, I have a career because of it now. I have 1,500, you know, Twitter friends now. But also him and I are a lot tighter than we ever were. Now, 90% of our conversations might be about Tableau, but we still talk constantly, and it's really because of it. So anyways, really cool stories altogether. I think, personally, how Tableau has changed my life in so many ways. So.
Now, Kevin, you were able to quickly find a mentor, obviously, because he's sitting next to you. Ken, how did you go about finding someone to either follow, or like, what does that look like for you?
Yeah. Again, my story is certainly a bit different. I mean, he had kind of a built-in mentor, right? I mean, I was fiddling around with the software on my own for a while. I mean, there were a few people that early on, you know, I mentioned Josh reached out to me early on and you know, kind of acted a little bit as a mentor. There were a couple of other key people that were just people that reached out to me early on and were very willing to help and, you know, actively sort of just kind of working with me and giving suggestions. And, you know, if I posted a question out on Twitter, they would be the people who would respond right away. So people like Adam Crayon was one of the big ones early on. I mean, if I asked a question on Twitter, I knew Adam would jump in and try to help out, you know. And Johnny Walker was another one who, you know, just really sought to sort of bring me in and, you know, kind of take me under his wing to a large degree. And people, again, like Josh and Ben. So I don't know that, you know, they were ever sort of full-blown mentor kind of relationships, but there were people that I knew that I could reach out to, that I could, you know, if I had a question or if I had, you know, wanted some input or some feedback, I could reach out to them and they would provide that. I mean, I think that network has grown a little bit now. I mean, certainly Kevin is somebody I reach out to for feedback. And I think that's a cool, like, I'm so ingrained in this stuff. And I think it's really nice to be able to talk to somebody who's still kind of, what is it, 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, something like that? 9 months, yeah. Who's still kind of relatively new. So I can kind of ask him to read something and say, are people at different levels going to understand what I'm saying here? You know, because I think sometimes it's easy to just kind of spin through, do this, do this, do this, do this, when you're explaining something, and some people might not even follow that basic train of thought. But there are lots of other people that I reach out to as well. And you know, if I'm looking for feedback on something, a lot of times it's just depending on what I'm doing. You know, maybe I'll reach out to like Neil Richards, you know, because I'm doing something that I think he would appreciate, or that he would, you know, kind of get what I'm doing. You know, maybe I'll reach out to Neil, and, you know, so there are lots of different people throughout the community that, you know, I'll look to for different things, if it's help or if it's, you know, let's collaborate on this, or, you know, I just need some feedback. And I think that's what's nice about kind of being ingrained in the community and knowing, you know, who's the expert to go to for each of these different things, right?
I think you've both touched on something that we've heard before. It's not new. Is like, once you get into the community, people feel like they need to find their voice or have people kind of see them, like they need to be seen, and that helps them to continuously contribute, to show up. I think it's cool that you both have kind of shared that and expressed it in different ways. Ken and Kevin both just talked about their Tableau community origin story, and I don't think I know your origin story. So can you kind of share with us how you got started in the community?
I wish I honestly could remember, but I feel like it was probably when I started working as a consultant, and saw, you know, there's a lot of people in the community for that large consulting company. And I think I probably just thought, oh, I'll just hop on and I'll start. And I feel like it even happened before then. I might have been when I was at Minneapolis Public Schools, just started like following one or two people. Like, I think the very first person that I started paying attention to was Matt Chambers. And there was a couple people in the Twin Cities community that did Tableau stuff because I was using it. And I just feel like it was really like kind of a slow versus like some people who just like hop in. Mine was like just real slow. There wasn't like a one day it was turned on. It was just kind of has been a slow build. So that's why I'm kind of like, I don't have a solid single point. It's just like my personal Twitter became my professional Twitter this over a slow period of time.
How long have you both been using Tableau?
I've been using it since either 2011 or 2012, and I remember assessing it in 2009 when I worked at the University of Minnesota, and I worked at the College of Pharmacy, and we wanted to use some sort of visualization tool. And I remember my boss bringing it to me and saying, "What do you think of this tool?" And I played around with it for like 20 minutes. And then D3 didn't exist. Actually, there was the precursor to it existed. And I also obviously Excel. And I was like, listen, this Tableau tool is just, there's not a lot to it. And I want to do more than what they're bringing to the table. So it was kind of like, it was a no-brainer, like it was a no-go for me. And then 3 years later, we were trying to figure out how to map things. And we just could not find the right tool to map locations. And we ended up using Tableau, and then back in the tool after I had originally 3 years ago, or in 2011, whatever it was, like 2 or 3 years previous, said no way to it.
What about you, Ann? Curious. I know. I'm doing the interview here.
No, that's totally cool. Like, I love getting this question because I'll preface this by saying a lot of people use that as sort of a yardstick to see how long it takes to get to be, someone prominent, known in the community, which I'll candidly say I think that's bullshit. It's however much you put into it from an effort perspective that's going to dictate where you're going to go with it, which I don't think is why you're asking me this question. So I like to say that I've been in a serious relationship with Tableau for like 3 years. I knew what it was. Someone introduced me to Tableau as part of my day job, and I thought it sucked. I think it was like Tableau 6 or 7, and I didn't like it. It didn't feel like intuitive. It was me being an idiot because I knew it was powerful, but I didn't know how to wield the power, right? And so I was like, well, I don't know how to do this. I'm just going to go do what I normally do. But I never lost sight or track of it. And I say I got into a serious relationship about 3.5 years ago, maybe 4 at this point, because despite all of that, after not really trying with it for a period of time, I just decided to change and focus my career specifically to do that in my daily job, because I felt like that would be really powerful if someone would pay me to do something that I thought I needed, that I thought was actually quite interesting. Right. So I'd say serious relationship, 3 or 4 years. And then community perspective, I'm someone who's been in the user group realm for much longer than I've been in the Twitter realm. Probably about probably my Tug life probably precedes my Twitter life by close to a year. But I felt very much that the things that we were doing in Phoenix needed to be broadcast and shared on Twitter, and that I needed to get more connected than just the same people that I was seeing in my local Tug. And that kind of is where the transition really started to occur.
I do remember, speaking of origin stories, I do remember going to a user group, and we had John Mathis, who had won the Iron Biz that year, and he came and he presented. It was being hosted in downtown. I just remember it vividly, and I watched him give a presentation, and my thought was, there's no offense to John. I've met John, and I know John from work, from previous life now. But I was just like, I can do that. That's not that even what's the big deal?
It's cool to hear all the different stories of people that have, Luke, you using it for 7, 8 years, and you said, you're introduced to it, but didn't really care for it. And it sounds like so many people have gone through so much time just kind of fiddling with it and throwing it, putting it to the side and coming back to it. So, I have this completely different perspective where I was with him thrown right into the middle of it immediately.
here's how you use it. Here's some videos. Here's some people to follow on Tableau Public. You got to get a Twitter account. You got to do this, this, and this. And so it's all I really know. And I think without a doubt, it's one of the main reasons I've grown quickly. So, you know, we see people like Mike Cisneros and Alicia at the conference talking about mentorship. And it's not this really exciting topic to talk about, but it is huge. It is absolutely huge in helping somebody grow, because, you know, I could have done the same thing as fiddle around with Tableau and never got connected to community. And, you know, I'm still doing bar charts and line charts, and I get it. That's 90% what we're going to do in business, but it's still doing these other charts to help you learn the tool, really. So, you know, anybody out there doesn't have some sort of relationship, whether it's structured or not, but that mentorship is so powerful in helping somebody grow and get connected to the right, even if it's just, hey, follow these people on Tableau Public, follow these people on Twitter, look at and kind of helping you guide your own process of learning. It's really incredible, really powerful. So it's certainly where, and I've done presentations on this, it's certainly where I put most emphasis on new people getting involved in Tableau, is get connected, getting tied into the community, because there's so much inspiration, so many people that help, you know. And I always, in my presentations, I crack a joke. I give 5 steps to kind of help your growth. And the 5th one is get a Zen master as a twin brother. Well, guess that's not actually going to happen for most people. But the truth is, if you're on Twitter, if you're on LinkedIn, you're on Tableau Public, you have a direct connection to Zen masters. You can, I know for a fact, I see people do it all the time, send him emails and he responds, or send Ann an email, or send Ann a message on Twitter. All of us have these connections directly to Zen masters, to ambassadors, to experts in the community that are willing to help. So it's a joke, but it's certainly a serious thing that we all have those connections.
That actually brings up an interesting point, because I just think, like, we probably all fall in the same spot, as that when we learned the tool, we went all in on it. I know for myself, like, even though I've used it for a while, I was all in when I started learning it. And maybe I'm just like coming to a conclusion here, is that when you're a learner or achiever or whatever it is, you probably connect with the community quicker, and then it's just a matter of finding the people who are learners and achievers and getting them those right resources, because I don't think that always happens.
Right. Yeah. It'd be nice to have some sort of just, maybe that's the blog post is, hey, anybody getting connected to Tableau for the first time, or you've been using it for a couple of weeks, here are the things you really need to do. You need to do this, this, and this to get really connected to the people, the other people that are in your same walk of life.
Well, I think it happens. So, I mean, at least in the user group perspective, that's something that we say, like, I found out what Makeover Monday was because of my local tug, right? And certainly in my more professional world, when I teach Tableau, those are the things that I mention. People will always say, how long did it take you? And I say, well, you need to do these things, right? Because I think it's ingrained in what you're doing. And Luke, I also think you touched on something that we all super align with, which is you have to be serious about your practice, and you have to spend time on your craft. It's not just going to come easy. It takes, I don't want to say constant attention, because, you know, obviously we all have multiple priorities in life, but it really does take active attention. I guess I'll put it that way.
And that's anything, right? I mean, It's not just Tableau, it's anything. Right?
Sure, it's easy with Tableau, and it's so fun to do, though. I mean,
yeah, and you know, the community that is grown up around Tableau is, I mean, I've been in IT for 20 years, and I've never seen a piece of software like this. So, and I mean, that's part of what makes it great. I mean, it's part of why people are able to learn it quickly and advance quickly, and it's part of what makes the product better, because we're constantly providing that feedback back to Tableau to improve the software. So, but yeah, other software, maybe I've missed it, but any other software I've ever worked with, I've never seen anything quite like this. So.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. Like, I don't, you know, it feels really weird to be so tied to something and, you know, to have such strong fondness and affection toward it. But there's not a lot of like brands out there that do that, especially kind of in like the tech sphere of things. Like, I don't know. I almost think the people make it more than the product's fucking awesome, but the people make it more than, the people make it slightly more than the product, right? It's that synergy of the community along with the product that really takes it to the next level. And there's maybe a couple other consumer brands you could say that about, but it's really weird to think from kind of like a professional perspective that we're willing to spend not only our careers on it, but our personal time invested in that. I think
right.
it's
Yeah. And Tableau Public, I think, is such a huge part of that as well, right? Because Tableau and the community, it could, I don't feel like those two could connect the same way without that glue that Tableau Public is, right? Because, we're able to share our work and put it up online, and then, other people can go download it and learn from it. And without that, I mean, I'd like to have been involved in, or like to have heard those conversations that happened internally at Tableau when they started talking about creating a free version of the product. Like there had to be some people saying, no way, it's a terrible idea. And
not just like a free product, or it's like barely watered. And I mean,
right, it's almost
barely, it's like just a few data connections, watered down
right,
version
yeah.
of it, that you can host all of these things for free. And if you really wanted to get tricky about it, it basically could become your server.
Right. Yeah. And some people use it that way. I mean, you see how certain, online news websites and news sites and things like that use it as their primary tool.
Right.
But yeah, I think it would be interesting to have heard those conversations, because some people thought it was a horrible idea, and yet what it's become is this incredible product that is the glue between the community and the event and Tableau, and this great way of learning. But it is watered down just enough to where you can't, it is difficult in a lot of situations to use it at work. But, when I started using Tableau, my first year, I think it was 100% Tableau Public, because I didn't have a license. And it just, what a great way to make this software, to give up a way for people to learn the software.
Yeah, I can imagine if it's a 14-day trial like everything else, how much, would I have continued to use it? Probably, there's no way I would have. I wouldn't have thrown whatever, $1,200, $1,300 out at it to buy a software I used for 14 days. But instead I used the thing for 8 months, got a job doing it because of it, because my work was displayed as a resume out on Tableau Public site, and now I have a desktop license. But I can't imagine that happens without a platform such as that. So yeah,
and it was part, for me, it was part of the reason I started using it, because I had used a different tool previously, and that was a pretty good product. For doing, some basic charts and that kind of thing. It didn't touch Tableau, but it was still a pretty good product. And I wanted to create some visuals for these blog posts that I was writing. They were focused on just, I have a question that I want to answer. I'm going to get some data and I'm going to analyze that and see if I can get to the bottom of it. And I wanted visuals to support that analysis. And the first one I did it with a previous tool, but I just had to put an image on there of it because, well, first of all, I was using a work license for that, so I couldn't, at some point that, I couldn't do that. But sorry, I lost my chain of thought here. But at first I started building those charts with that tool and just putting an image in there, and I hated it. I wanted to do maps, one, and as you mentioned before, Luke, Tableau does maps really, really well and really, really easily. There's like a very low entry point to be able to do cool maps in Tableau, and I've never seen that with any other tool in this space. And I wanted to be able to do, and I wanted to be able to embed interactive content in my blog. And just like you look out there, there's not that many free tools that you can use to do that without learning to write, code. And I think that's part of what got me hooked into it is that ability to use Tableau Public for free, be able to create these things, embed them really, really easily, and why would I use anything else when I've got all those key things that I needed to be able to do with it.
So Kevin, I'm going to put you on the spot again because you guys opened the door with Tableau Public. So this year, you're new to the community. Iron Viz has been something hot on your mind. It's been a hot topic throughout the year. You participated in all 3 feeders, right? Talk me through that process of why you decided to do it and how that was for you kind of year 1 into this.
Which were your favorite, and which, like, I'd just like to hear a little, like, the full thought process through the year.
Favorite of mine, like my favorite that I did, or just
yes, your favorite of yourself.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll just go kind of back to the beginning with the very first feeder. It was on literature, and
when was this?
This was
it March?
March, I think.
And you
right?
Started in February.
So I started February 26th. I remember, it was an important day, and so I think I create 4 or 5 Vizes, and I think Iron Viz season started in March. So I thought, what the heck? And I said to myself, I got no chance of winning, so let's just do it. And Ken even said, "You sure you want? You sure you want to?"
Did I say it?
I think you said, "Do it," but I hope you don't win, or something like that. And it wasn't a shot at me. I think you were just like, and that would be.
You wouldn't be ready.
I wouldn't be. I don't think you were ripping on me, but it's a lot of pressure for somebody that would have been a couple months in. But
you don't even know what you're getting yourself into at that point.
Right. But right, exactly. I really didn't know I didn't really know until last month what that really looks like. But and it was on literature, and I was like, I just am not much of a reader. Technical stuff I read, I don't read for enjoyment. It's so literature. I saw the topic, and I said, I'll just wait. And then I just started hearing people talk about it, and Ken talking about it, and looking back at the old, past years, and like, all right. And I think Curtis was talking about it on your last podcast, just competition, right? And I played sports my whole life, and I'm incredibly competitive. I'll challenge him to a race, and we play games here all the time. We got this little curling game, and I haven't lost a game yet this weekend, so. No, I haven't lost the game. But I'm incredibly competitive, so I'm like, all right, what better way to use this tool and to compete against others? So, and I fooled around with a couple ideas, and I keep referencing other people. Neil Richards talks about this design-driven data, right? That's what I was. I wanted to find like something that looked cool. So I tried, and I thought to myself, what's going to look cool? Well, book covers don't really usually look that great. But movies do, and a lot of books become movies. So I tried a couple of different things like Wicked and the movie Wonder, and then I found Lorax, and I thought, wow, that bright orange background and that goofy guy's mustache is going to be perfect. So in the book, it really was easy because the book talks about deforestation, right? So it was a cool parallel of literature and data, and it really worked well, had that bright pop. And I don't think I knew that. I liked it. I fell in love with it as I was creating it. But when I posted it on Twitter, I remember Ken goes, like, damn, that could win. And I went, what? Like, I don't really want to win. Not yet. And I posted on Twitter, and people kind of went nuts about it. And I remember Simon Beaumont saying, hey, it's a legit possibility that twin brothers could be up on stage this year, even though Ken had no intention of competing. So yeah, and then I ended up getting 3rd place. So in my first one, Johnny Walker, I remember sending a message saying, wow, the guy got 3rd place after working with Tableau for 2 months. So to answer your question, Luke, yes, that was my favorite by far. It's probably still my favorite visualization that I built 2 months in. But it was addicting. And I've heard you talk about it, Ann, is that it's just an addicting process. And I said to myself, there's no way I'm going to skip that. I'm not going to miss out. So the second one was the health and wellness, and built that goofy Candyland, and just fun. That one got 9th place. I got top 10 in the first 2. The goal was to do what you did and get top 10 in all 3, but I couldn't do it. My third one was Waterworld. It was just, there wasn't a story there. It was just too ambiguous, I think. The design was pretty. But the whole process was just incredibly addicting. I loved competing. I love getting the top 10. That's incredible, like an incredible feeling. So to be honest, I almost skipped the third one because I didn't have any ideas. I was afraid that I was spending too much time designing these Iron Viz entries and not enough time learning the technical aspects, because a lot of what I was doing when I was using Tableau Public was taking a spreadsheet of data and reworking the spreadsheet in Excel, not doing anything, no calculations, almost no calculations in Tableau. I wasn't using any sort of prep tool or anything like that. I was just using that as a crutch. So I'm gonna skip the third one to focus more on technical learning. And Curtis Harris talked me out of it. He said, when are you gonna learn more than during Iron Viz? So yeah, it's a really addicting thing. I've kind of saw those guys up on stage this year, and it's really daunting and intimidating. And I thought, well, maybe next year I'll just sit out, but there's no way I'm going to do that, because I don't care how daunting it is. I want to be up there. And I've never heard anybody more than Ann Jackson talk about how much she wants to be up there. I want to be up there. If it ruins my conference, fine. Fine. I'm not worried about it. So, Luke, you said you've done how many in a row?
I've got 9 in a row now.
9 in a row. And how many for you?
I think it's 7. I think it's only, it's funny because Luke is the person I met last year. You know, I always say this, like Luke and I met, and he's the only person that I know that was much more like passionate about Iron Viz than I am. Which is so, you know, so I think we've got probably 3 of the most serious people around Iron Viz.
That's where we met as well. I went.
We sat next to all of us. We all sat together.
Yeah, I got in line for Iron Viz super early, and I think there were 3 people, Dan, Josh, and Luke waiting there. So that's when we all first met. I thought you 2 knew each other previous to that, but
not at all.
We talked a little bit like 2 days earlier, but that's it.
Okay. I had to force myself not to compete this year just because I knew.
Why?
I just knew conference was going to be
Yeah.
like I wanted to really experience as a news, and I just wanted to experience all that, and I knew it was going to be busy. I can't even, I mean, it was so busy already this year. I can't imagine having to add that in there. And
how'd you do it, Ann?
And I wasn't anywhere near as busy as Ann.
Ann has a secret weapon.
Oh,
the secret weapon is Josh.
So it's true enough. I have a constant supporter and someone that certainly supports my, you know, my stuff. I want to do all the things. Like I want to do all the things. So that's how I make it work. It's laser focused, you know, super focused on whatever it is. And then I tell this to people all the time is like, I like being scared and out of my comfort zone and being put in positions where I can fail. So the idea of maybe doing Iron Viz and talking as a Zen and doing other things, it's such a daunting concept and task. And I'd love to put myself through that experience just to see if I survive it or crash and burn. That's pretty much it. You know, and I don't like failing, right? So I know how much I don't like to fail. That's a pretty good mechanism to be sure you're going to end up with something, right? It doesn't always look pretty, but knowing how strong that mechanism is to not fail is really helpful for me personally.
Well, Vegas was putting odds on Iron Viz competitors next year. I think you might be the front runner there, Ann.
I don't know, guys.
No brainer.
It would make a good story. If nothing else, I'm like, this story is ripe now. Like I could go on stage and certainly there would be a lot to say from a story perspective, but I still think that I've got a lot to go in terms of getting anything put up on the feeder that's going to get close to a victory. I don't think
you're pretty darn close 3 times this year.
You know, I do the trend line. I did the linear regression. It's getting close there. We'll see. I think, so Kevin, let me ask you this then, like, at least when you were doing the Iron Viz experience, was it enjoyable for you? I mean, you have a lot of fondness towards your first feeder and what you built. Did that continue to persist throughout the year? Did you ever feel like it was a chore, that you were just kind of doing it to show up, that it was a requirement?
Never, not for a minute. I've had a few hobbies in life, played a lot of golf for a while, and, you know, made some videos, some weird stuff. Magic. I used to be like the bowl. I've done a lot of different things, and it really shows just competitive. This year, by the way, Andy Cotgrave. Oh yeah, Andy Cotgrave was doing magic in a bar, and I talked to him about magic, and he did a bunch of magic tricks, and I was just like, "This is so cool." And he handed me the deck, and he said, "Your turn." I'm like, "Oh, I get to do a trick for Andy Cotgrave." I did it. I kind of screwed up one step because I haven't done it in a long time. But yeah, I was involved. I used to be avid poker player and blackjack player. So I've been involved in a lot of different hobbies for short periods of time. But this, by far, is the most addicting thing I've done. So I was afraid. So when 8 months into it, I was contacted by someone and ended up taking a job as a analyst and Tableau developer. And my fear at that point, my first and only fear was that I'm going to do what a lot of other people do when they start doing this for a living, is disappear, is not want to do it when I come home, not want to write or not want to create. And it has done nothing but amplify it. I want to do it more. I do it more. I write more. When I'm at work building a visualization, I'm thinking about, you know, oh, I could write about this particular aspect or this particular aspect. The hex map blog that I recently did was born out of work I did, you know, in a professional setting. So it's never felt like work. It always feels like fun. It feels like when Ken first introduced me to it, he said it's the closest thing to sitting down when we were 10 years old and drawing pictures of Transformers. That's what we did. We just sat there and drew for hours. And it's really the closest thing to that is this really great combination of creating, artistic, and analytics. It's just this perfect combination that fits me so well, you know, the things I like to do. So no, to answer your question, it's never felt like work. It's always been fun. I never did anything that I didn't really want to do that I wasn't excited about.
What about you, Ken? Has your time in the community ever felt like a job or a chore? Or did that change at all when you became a Zen master?
I think kind of the same as Kevin. I mean, it's never like I just love it, you know. And I mean, this year I feel like, so last year was my first full year kind of just being part of the community and being a Tableau. So I spent a lot of time just like building, like creating things, just creating visualizations, and you know, every once in a while I sprinkle something in there, a how-to. And this year I feel like it really sort of switched over to doing a lot more teaching. You know, I think if you look at my blogs this year, it's a lot of how to do this, how to do that, or that kind of thing. But it never, when it feels like a chore, I'm going to stop doing it. You know what I mean? Like, you know, this is something I love, and I have a passion for. And, you know, I just I like all of it. I like the whole aspect of it. I like, you know, being able to create something new and interesting, and, you know, or doing, you know, a deep data analysis. And I also really, really like the teaching part of it. And I love, I tell Kevin this all the time. I get these direct emails or contacts through LinkedIn or Twitter, people saying, I got this weird sort of chart that I want to create. You know, help me with this. And I just love that, you know, and for a couple of reasons. One, I just like those challenges. I like doing something different and weird. But I also just love that people come to me. You know, it's a good feeling when someone feels like you know how to do something well enough that they ask you for help with that. So, yeah. I mean, it's never felt like, I mean, this is part of my day job. I mean, I think I maybe spend 20% of my day, my work doing stuff with Tableau. But I don't know where I was going with that, but it never feels like work either. It never feels like work at work, and it never feels like work, you know, outside of work either. And I think the moment it does, you know, maybe a sign that I need to back off a little bit. And but I don't think it ever will. I feel like I don't want to do that.
We were. I came up here on Wednesday night, and I don't know if it is around the country, but Wednesday night, historically, the Wednesday night before Thanksgiving's kind of known as a big party night. Everybody likes to go out and have drinks. So at 11:30, Ken and I log on our computers and we hop on the Tableau forums and start answering questions, having a drink and answering forum questions. Like, this is like so nerdy and so cool all at the same time. And he went to bed at, I don't know, midnight, 12:30, and I start writing a blog post that I've been working on. And I look up and it's 2:30 in the morning. Like, it felt like I've been writing for 15 minutes. So it is so much fun. The time flies when you're doing it, like you said, at work. I use Tableau about 80% of the time, and the days absolutely fly by. So it's a lot of fun. I hope it never feels like work. I did recreate an Ann Jackson chart just recently, by the way, at work.
I hope that was an enjoyable experience.
It was good. Did some cool stuff. I'm like, I learned a lot there. So.
I think, it's kind of funny, Luke had mentioned that he got lost track of time because he was building a Workout Wednesday to show up for this. And, yesterday is Thanksgiving, and last night, at about 8 o'clock, I was like, hey, I haven't done the Workout Wednesday for this week yet. I need to go do that, right? Like, it's just like, hey, let's go do it. There's downtime. I think it's awesome that there's so many people that feel such a strong kind of affinity towards it, and it's not this weird, chore. Which I wish more people knew, right? I wish people could get to that point where we are, where it's just like, why would you not be doing this?
Right. And it's even like you go to Tableau Conference and you see 17,000 people are there, but really, how many are really, really into it, right? A couple thousand maybe? Maybe not even that, I don't know. And I just wish I could see. You guys got to see what I see, or you got to see what I experience. Or you go to a Tableau user group, and there's 50, 60 people there, and you've only heard of maybe one or two of them. You only know one or two of them because they're not on Twitter, or you're not following them on Tableau Public, and you want to just their eyes to be open to what this experience is really about.
It's all about making the right, like, it's tough to go to a user group or a conference and meet people if you are new to it and you're not someone that reaches out. So it's like breaking down that barrier is the way to engage people over a longer period of time.
Right.
Hopefully. That's just my speculation.
You're speculating.
I remember that I used to go to tech conferences. Sorry, Ann, but I used to go to software tech conferences, and I go to sessions and I go home. You go back to the hotel, this is just it does make a big difference to know people going in ahead of these things and having those relationships and having people that can help kind of guide you through, and introduce you to other people and all those kinds of things.
Nothing cooler than going and meeting 500, 600, 700 people in real life that you've only met on Twitter. That is really so surreal, so cool, really exciting. So hope other people can experience that. Even people that have been using Tableau for a long time, or been, I take like somebody like Lindsay Betzendahl who's using it for 4 years and they got tied in the community. And then this year she got to meet all those people for the first time. So, and she can tell you the stories of when she went to conference in 2015 and met 3 people, and this year, everybody knows who she is. So, pretty incredible experience.
All right, so I got to ask, what are your guys' goals for 2019? We're getting close to the end of the year. What are you guys planning on spending?
Don't make any resolutions. Resolutions are things that you fail at. What are your goals?
There you go. Well, everyone had conference goals, right? Everyone came out. I think, Kevin, you said it well. Like as you guys are talking about it, and Ken as well, like you go to these sessions, you go to the conference, and instead of that traditional experience of feeling so drained, like you have no energy, it's the reverse of that, right? You're like, holy, I have so much that I want to do. And your mind is going like a million miles a minute. And there's all these things you want to accomplish. Now we're probably about a month out. Your brain has had time to calm down. What are the things that you guys are focused on?
Let me go first. Top 10 in all 3 Iron Viz feeders is goal number 1.
Yeah.
I don't think that'll happen. I don't know if that'll happen ever again. But so well done, Ann. But that's the goal. I want to compete in them all. I want to do well in them all. I want to start doing more writing. I think I have a kind of a cool perspective that a lot of people that are writing blogs don't, is I'm trying to do things simple. You know, one of my upcoming ones does involve, you know, quite a bit of math, but I'm taking a very simplistic approach to it and trying to make it consumable for people that are fairly new. So doing a lot more writing. I still want to create that's the best part. I like the writing. I like, you know, teaching and helping others, but creating in Tableau is really what got me there and what excites me. So I'm going to do a lot of the same things I've done. I just want to grow. I have still huge gaps in my game. I've only been using it for 9 months. But definitely writing more, helping others more, and trying to, and Luke, I remember us talking after the conference, you talking about how I'm going at this kind of a totally different direction than Ken does. And it's true. You know, I think Ken's known as sort of there's a lot of, you guys are very well known. Ken's well known. I think what Ken's well known is, hey, you got this crazy chart type I want to create. How do I do it? You know, and people come to him and he's accessible. And I gotta think people have started to come to me recently of, hey, I got this simple thing I want to do, but I don't know how to do it. You know, how can you make, you know, or it's complicated, I want to simplify it. So I think that's kind of been a little bit of my niche is to a fresh perspective on, hey, how do we make this simpler? Now, I will be the first one to admit, you know, we'll take like the no polygon thing. That is a simple approach. It's easy to do. It's consumable for most. It does lose some of the flexibility you have when you use actual polygons. So I don't intend on dumbing down anything. I just want to make some things simpler. So, and knowing that, hey, it may not be the best approach. You know, the thing we kind of touched on before, it may not be the best approach, but it is a simple approach, and it's might take you 5 minutes instead of 2 hours to build. So those are my kind of goals. You know, I'd love to be. I sure love to be an ambassador. I'd love to be sitting up with you guys. I was so super jealous of you guys sitting at Iron Biz in the first couple of rows. I want to do that. That would be wonderful. But other than that, yeah, just keep learning, keep helping others, keep writing, keep creating.
Yeah, I've never been a goal setter really. I don't know, it's just something about me. I mean, I just always want to keep learning and advancing and getting better at whatever it is I'm doing. You know, so I think same as Kevin, you know, I want to continue to do the things I've been doing this year, which, you know, is creating as well as, you know, the teaching and all those kinds of things. This year I started doing a lot more stuff on the forums, which, just a quick plug for the forums. I mean, I think a lot of people think that you have to be this expert to get on the forums and answer questions. But I found it was such a great way to learn as well. Like, you know, a lot of the questions you don't have an answer for right away. And, you know, you have to go think about it or try some things or, you know, Google it yourself. And there's it's such a great tool for learning as well. So I just want to quick plug for the forums.
And not to interrupt you, but, you know, I spent Wednesday was my first time on the forums ever. And I have a blog post that was born out of it because somebody asked a question. I said, hey, I think I can do that. And somebody else had already done it, but I've got an idea what makes it a lot easier. So I got a blog post that's born out of it. So, certainly develops your own skills along the way. So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just want to continue with those things, you know, the way I have. I'm also hoping from a work standpoint to, I mean, one of my goals at work is, so I work at a university and we've been, you know, I'm on the IT side, so we historically haven't had a lot of interaction with faculty, or students really, because it's more the administrative side. So one of the things I'm really hoping to do, and it's been one of our goals, is to get out and share our skills more with, you know, our faculty and our students. And so I'm hoping to continue to do more of that from a professional standpoint, so that we can get these tools. And it's not just Tableau, it's the data prep tools and all those different things that build and analytics, program and platform and all that. So hoping to do more of that from a professional standpoint as well. But otherwise, just continuing doing what I'm doing, and hoping, continuing to learn and enhance my skills as well.
All right, I'm gonna ask. We can cut it if it doesn't make it in, but I'm gonna ask. Where does Workout Wednesday fit in this?
You said we can cut it if this doesn't work.
No pressure.
So when I was creating Candyland, this was, 5 months ago? I tried, Luke, you remember this, I tried to work out Wednesday, and I was like, holy crap, I have absolutely no idea how to do this. It was one of yours, Ann. So I ended up messaging Luke. I don't remember I didn't message you, Ann, but I messaged Luke and I said, so like, if you had to rate how hard this is on a scale of 1 to 10, how was it? He goes, let me check it out. Came back, he goes, that was a 9, maybe a 9.5. So it was really hard.
I think that's what you guys, that's one of the things that the team that you are doing, right, is putting, or at least that's the plan, right, is to put sort of, this is an advanced one, this is, and I think I think that will be really helpful for the people like Kevin, when he attacked that, is he would have known not to touch that one and go back and do a previous one that was not as difficult. To answer your question, I mean, I don't do any of these projects. I don't. And when people ask me all the time how to get better at Tableau, and my two top things are always make over Monday and Workout Wednesday. I mean, I always recommend those as a way to learn. For whatever reason, for me, and I think it's just because I like finding my own data. That's something that I'm really, really interested in, and building something and using that as my way to learn and to practice. And that's the way I've been since day one. I think I've done maybe 4 or 5 makeover Mondays ever, and a couple of Workout Wednesdays maybe. It's just, I don't know, that's my own personal way of learning and practicing. And if I'm not interested in the data that I'm dealing with, I don't really want to do it. So, so I end up doing mostly just my own kind of personal things. But I'm always I'm always active, right? I'm always doing something. I'm always practicing. And I can imagine if I ever got to the point where I just didn't have anything I wanted to do.
That's terrible.
That does sound terrible. I didn't mean to sound like that. But if I was, if I was out of my own ideas, I would certainly go and if I was finding myself where I wasn't practicing, I wasn't keeping myself busy learning, then I certainly would probably get more involved in things.
So one of the things that after conference is I said that I was going to start being involved more with these community projects, and one of my reasonings was of not take Makeover Monday, for example. I historically didn't get involved in Makeover Monday, and I did 3 or 4 times prior to the conference, and it was for the same reason. I like to go find my own data. I like to find something interesting to me, but when I got a job doing it, I told myself, hey, you're not always going to be super excited about the data you're using. So one of my goals coming out of the conference was, let's get involved with some of these other projects like Makeover Monday, like Workout Wednesday, because, hey, you got to force yourself to utilize some data sets that may not be the Lorax or, visualizing pi or whatever. So to be perfectly honest, Makeover Monday is on my list. Lindsay's Project Health Viz is on my list. Sports Viz Sunday is on my list. Workout Wednesday is on my list. So I'm going to be involved in all of them at some point in time. I will tell you, I won't be regular. I won't be Makeover Monday like everybody every week, or Workout Wednesday every week. But I certainly can see how powerful it is. And I'm sure you guys will stretch my skills quite a bit. So I think I'll be around.
That is one of the cool things I think about Workout Wednesday, though, is you know, people do have constraints in their jobs, right? You know, and you know, a lot of people don't have the ability to change the structure of their data, right? You know, so I do love, you know, I think it's a really powerful way to learn and force people to think about creative solutions when they have those types of problems. You know, as you talked about before, when you first started doing this, you were kind of manually structuring all your data in Excel to it until it looked perfect to where you could easily visualize it. And that's not the way things are in real life, right? So a project like, and even with Makeover Monday, I mean, you can still go and restructure that data how you want. But what I think that's cool about Workout Wednesday is you put all those constraints on people and force them to learn a specific skill. I'm hesitating there because it's not always the case. I mean, there are lots of different solutions to the different problems, but in general, you're forcing people to learn how to do a handful of different things. Right?
But it is true when people say, "How do I get better?" You know, people come up to me and say, "You know, you've done pretty good over this year. How do you get better?" It's always Workout Wednesday, Makeover Monday. It's always the two things I recommend as well. So, we're twinning.
So now that we're on the topic of 2019 and resolutions and goals, how would you like to see the community change and grow in 2019? That's Anne's question.
All right.
It's a good question because, and I'll preface this by saying a lot of people have a lot of feedback and opinions about what the community excels at and what its shortcomings are. So I'd like to know, just as people that are in it, what you think, where the opportunities are.
Well, Anne and I, we had conversations like this at last year's conference. So I definitely want to see increased diversity in our community. I think there are, and maybe it's just because, you know, Tableau isn't heavily used in these different parts of the world, but I feel like there is a very US, you know, Britain, a little bit of Europe sort of centered community. So I would love to see that broaden out a little bit more. And we're seeing that.
If we want to get thoughtful about this, then we need a better geographical representation to then, if you want to talk about easily landing on a diverse set of Zen masters, just focus on geography first, and then the pieces will start to come together.
Yeah, and I think part of that's language and things like that as well.
Yeah, exactly.
A very English-centered community, right? And understandably so. I mean, to some degree, but I mean, there are parts of the world that don't speak English that much, you know. So, and we've been fortunate enough to see, you know, Tristan won Iron Viz last year, and Timothy won this year, and they were not Britain and not US, which was kind of nice. But I mean, there's whole parts of the world. I mean, Africa is very, very underrepresented in the community, and whether that is because they're not using the product as much as other areas, or I don't know what that is. So I mean, so that's one of the things I want to continue to see, is that we start to get more diversity, you know, from all different aspects, you know, gender and, you know, and race and geography and, you know, language, because I think that just is going to make us all a little bit better and challenge us all a little bit more, you know, in the way we think and do our work and that kind of thing. So that's one of the key things for me at this point.
Yeah, I can't add much. I mean, I think the community is pretty awesome. You know, I mean, this is my first year involved in it, and I've never felt more welcome in part of the group, and you know, feel like I'm sitting at the cool kids table. You know, so it's yeah, I don't have much comment other than what Ken said, but it's a powerful thing. I mean, if there was anything, I'd wish more people were involved. That more people, like I said, I see those 50 people at my local user group, and I know about 2 of them are on Twitter and are truly involved. And I think people, and I always encourage people to take, go home and do work on Tableau with something they love. And I think if they were involved in the community, they see a lot of people doing things they love. I remember one of the very first visualizations Ken showed me was Adam McCann's Beatles analysis. I'm the biggest Beatles fan probably almost ever. And you throw that artistic view of Beatles data and you go, wow, this is it's so much fun. It's not just work dashboards. It's so much more than that. And I get it. That's what the ultimate purpose is, and that's what the ultimate goal is. But it can be so much fun. And so if there's anything, I just wish we were able to somehow capture more people and get more people involved with this tight-knit community.
And one other thing I would say is I would like to see, and maybe this is in the category of diversity in a different way, but I think there is, so myself and Robert Crocker have been doing this series of blogs on SQL. And one thing I really realized, I've known SQL for years. I've used it, for over a decade probably, right? And I didn't realize until we started writing these that this is a skill that that a lot of people don't have. So one thing I would like to see is a broadening of us helping, I guess all of us helping each other to broaden our skill sets. I mean, we've spent all of our time talking about Tableau, but I do a lot of work with ETL and with SQL, and in fact that's the largest part of my day job is building data warehouses and data marts and data models. And Luke, you're a data scientist.
We've talked about this offline of like where do
yeah.
we start in ed on doing data science like work.
Right. Yeah. And so things like machine learning and the real hardcore data science kind of stuff. And of course you're offering the full gamut of analytics. I mean, it's not your business is not just Tableau, right? And it's a key part of what we all do, but that data prep side and like real data analysis and getting into like the predictive and those kinds of things. So I would like to see how and think about how we can kind of help to broaden the skills of our community and maybe even have some of those larger conversations around these different topics, because I think they're really important to what we do in our jobs. No one can use Tableau 100% of the time, and I don't know, maybe you can, but there are important other things that we have to do to really get value out of our data.
You gotta have some of those other skills, and I'm the poster boy for this because I didn't know SQL before starting a job doing Tableau development, and I only knew Ultrix to a degree. And my biggest struggle still is not Tableau, it's the data prep side. So yeah, I mean, if you're going to be a Tableau developer, you got to have these other skills. I mean, you have to be able to develop them at least. So yeah, absolutely, helping other people grow in those areas makes a lot of sense.
So I think we've covered a lot of really good topics. Is there, before we close, because I like to ask this every time, is there anything specific that you guys want to make sure that we have a discussion on or bring up that that hasn't yet been a part of this conversation? I mean,
go to kevinflerlage.com and kenflerlage.com.
I like the first person to actually do cross promotion.
Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day to sit down and talk to us. Yeah, we absolutely appreciate the time. And particularly what I find valuable is there's a few stories that you guys shared that I didn't know about either of you. And Luke, I think the same thing is true for what you kind of talked about. And that's where I really enjoy us coming together and have these conversations, because that's where the value add is for me. And hopefully coming out of this, everything we're talking about, getting more people passionate and excited about the stuff that we care about will be a part of this, will be a result of this.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it very much. I expect that one of us is going to rock and one of us is not. I'm getting the rock. He ain't getting squat.
Oh, yes.
You may need
Cut
to
that.
Yeah, you may need to pull back a little bit.
All attention off of us
Oh,
now.
yeah, there you go.
Hi.
Hi.